Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour is a notorious brothel on Aurora Avenue getting shut down, or is it just going to be Aurora Avenue? We'll have the details for you, but before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
I don't usually start off the show with a story from Not the Bee. Not the Bee is the Babylon Bee's actual news site. The Babylon Bee is a parody news site, makes funny headlines. We use it during Fake News Friday, which you can catch every single Friday at 4:45 with Mike and Young Zach. We use it all the time, but they have this other website called Not the Bee. And Not the Bee are stories that are so ridiculous that you wouldn't believe they're actually true. And as soon as I saw this one, what they're making fun of is how nobody understands the reason why, and they keep writing these headlines without understanding what they're writing. Here's the headline. Auto accidents are down 10% in Los Angeles and New York this year for some reason. And they've got a little emoji of a guy scratching his chin, like, gee, I wonder why. So, here's the reasons that are given by the lamestream media for why. Ready? Lighter traffic. Well, hang on. For those of you that are ahead of the game and already get where I'm going with this, those two are related. Okay. Some are saying, well, it's because gas prices are so high that people are opting for mass transit. Nope, that's not it, because mass transit numbers do not show an increase in ridership. So why do you think it is? Now, what the Not the Bee does in a very, very, very clever way is they did this whole article with social media posts. The entire thing, there's no words written. Just social media posts to get you to the conclusion that is, well, wait a minute. If there's less people on the streets, there's less accidents. Why are there less people on the streets? Why are there less people at work? Why are some buildings seeming empty in New York and Los Angeles specifically? Oh, because everything the left says about illegal aliens not wanting to come out for fear of being rounded up by ICE might actually be true. So what you're saying is it's working. If over 1 million illegal aliens have self-deported and the government has gotten rid of, we don't even know the final number or whatever number they're at right now, of how many illegal aliens they've deported, of course that's going to be less people on the streets. Of course that's going to be less people in buildings. Of course that's going to be less traffic accidents. Now, am I saying that in a racist way? Oh, you assume that these people from other countries can't drive? No, but I do detect a pattern here. I pulled up the recent arrests by ICE in our area, just by ICE Seattle. Tell me if you're seeing a pattern, because we've been seeing it a very, very long time. Here's the first one. ICE Seattle arrested and removed from the U.S. Roberto Diaz Osorio, a citizen of Mexico. Diaz has been convicted in Oregon of reckless driving, indecent exposure, possession of an open container while driving, driving without a license, and DUI twice. That's just one. Here we go. Next post. By the way, these are all consecutive. This is not me picking and choosing. I'm literally just going down their Twitter feed of the cases they're posting about. ICE Seattle. A citizen of Guatemala, Juan Lopez Lopez, from Yakima, or he was arrested in Yakima, was charged by local authorities of driving with a suspended license. Hang on. Let's keep going here. David Juarez Cortez, citizen of Mexico, arrested by local authorities for civil possession of a forged document, ID theft, reckless driving, DUI, and hit and run. Another one, Manjot Singh, citizen of India, arrested at least 6 times by local police, Singh's criminal history includes robbery, theft, criminal impersonation, and DUI. Every single one of those cases I just read you, and it's down the entire list, by the way. Down the entire list, DUI or reckless driving or driving without a license, all of that is on the list. There's a pattern here. If you don't care about the laws, you're not going to care about the big ones. You're not going to care about the small ones. If you broke the law to get into this country, odds are you're going to break other laws as well. Now, you may say, well, Ari, this is making the case for getting them driver's licenses. No, it's not. Because even the ones with legit driver's licenses are the ones who are getting into reckless endangerment, DUI, you name it, hit and run, all this kind of stuff. You know, they jack your rates in states which are sanctuary states because you have to deal with the fact that you're likely to get hit by an illegal who doesn't have insurance. I remember the worst car accident of my life. Worst car accident. And this was, let's see, my son is 21 now. He was 4 or 5 at the time. So, yeah, like 15, 16 years ago. This was the worst accident of my life. I'm in my Dodge Charger, my first Dodge Charger, and I was so happy to get this car. And I had it for a couple of years at that point. I'm driving my son to school. And the setup is I'm in the driver's seat, and my son is in his car seat on the opposite side, on the passenger side in the back row. And what happens is I go through an uncontrolled intersection, and a Ford F-150 truck hits me going 60 miles an hour on a residential street right in the driver's door. There are pictures of this on social media I really should share, given how bad it was, and since I'm describing the story. And the truck plowed into me with such force that my car hit the curb, broke the wheels, peeled off the tires, and pushed my car up onto the sidewalk and somebody's front lawn. They have a giant rock in front of their house, and the thing that stopped my motion was the rock hitting the other side of the car. Thank God the airbags deployed all around. And my son, who's 4 or 5 years old at the time, intern Jonah, is crying in the back seat. I'm kind of rattled because, you know, after an accident that severe, you're where am I? What's going on? I don't know what happened. My windshield isn't there anymore. There's airbags everywhere. It felt like the scene in Demolition Man where he's like, how'd I turn into a cream puff? What happened to my car here? That's what it was like when every airbag in the car deployed. I climb over the center console, go out the passenger side. The door isn't opening. I didn't know it's because that rock was there. The door isn't opening. I climb into the back. My son's in his car seat. I'm in such an adrenaline stage that what I do is I get his door open somehow. I can't open the ones on the driver's side because there's a Ford F-150 truck right there. I get my son. I take him and his car seat out of the car. We get on the side. One of our neighbors saw it and called 911. My in-laws, who live several blocks away, heard it. That's how disastrous this impact was. And what happens is EMTs show up, police show up, check out my son, and they said, where's the driver? And I said, I'm the driver. And they said, you walked away from that? And I said, yes. And they said, which God do you pray to? I was kind of moved by that one. But my wife had a different thing, and my wife's a religious woman. My wife had a different thing. She says, you're never driving anything other than a Dodge Charger the rest of your life. That's what she said. She said, I'm sure God helped, but that car saved your life. And that's one of the reasons I'm so proud to have our sponsors over at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, which is where I got that car from originally. So what happens here is, of course, after I make sure my son's okay and after they find out I'm okay, by the way, it wasn't without a scratch. I actually had to go to physical therapy for a while because I didn't know you could do this. I dislocated my ribs because the door handle came into my side section, and I had to be in chiropractor stuff for a while. It was months. So what happens is it was an illegal alien who was working for a construction company, who was driving the company truck that plowed into me at the time. So whose insurance rates go up? It's not my fault the car got totaled. I was obeying the speed limit. I was driving correctly. And this guy plowed into me at 50, 60 miles an hour. There were no skid marks in front of my car. Not one. I know a lot of you are sitting there right now thinking of your own stories. Yeah, I got rear-ended. Yeah, I got T-boned. Yeah, this happened. And the guy didn't have insurance. And the gal didn't have insurance. And the person didn't have insurance. My wife tells me this story about a person running into her who didn't have insurance one time. This is when she was, I think, a teenager. And the person gets out of the car with a bucket of paint that's the wrong color and goes, I fix. If they carry around the paint so much, maybe they shouldn't be driving if they have to carry around the paint. But it's always somebody who doesn't have insurance. And I'd say 9 times out of 10, it's always somebody who doesn't have insurance because they're an illegal. And that's the last thing on their minds is doing that. Every single time. So why do you think the accident rates are down? Now, odds are these numbers are going to come out and they're going to be the same for Seattle. And they're going to be the same for Washington. And they're going to be the same for King County. Odds are that's exactly what's going to happen. And they're going to say, see, our Vision Zero plan is working. No, it's not, because you've had the Vision Zero plan for years, and those numbers have only been going up, and we've been tracking them on the show. What changed between when you put this in and now? Donald Trump is president, and he's getting rid of all the illegal alien criminals. And every time the left is whining and crying, giving you a sob story about an illegal alien, every single time, there's always more to the story. And the latest one was exposed by our friend Brandy Cruz from the Undivided podcast. The Olympian ran an article about the owner of a mechanic shop in Lacey and a small organic farmer who was taken into custody by ICE, according to a fundraiser posted on GoFundMe. The fundraising campaign, which was created last month by co-organizers Carissa Miller and Anna Ortega, seek to raise $10,000 for his legal defense and family. This thing had raised about $12,000. She said, on June 24th, my close friend and neighbor, Paco, was abducted by ICE. He was pulled over while riding, passenger, removed from a vehicle, without a warrant, or receiving any information about why he was detained. His wife tried to film the situation, but ICE wouldn't let her answer any questions. According to the campaign, Paco is being held in the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma, and now his businesses are for sale. They describe him as a wonderful friend and neighbor. We're working hard to sell his assets to bring money in, but it's just too difficult. Now, the Olympian ran this story, but they wrote this at the bottom. The Olympian has reached out to the organizers for more information. Whoa. You believed a GoFundMe page without verifying anything about it? You write at the bottom here. The Olympian has reached out to the organizers for more information. You didn't verify this before you ran it? Well, some things about this just smelled badly to anybody who saw this article. So Brandy Cruz and her producer Nicole started digging because the picture they used of this guy was generated by AI. 97% likely generated by AI. It's a sketch, not an actual picture. Why isn't it an actual picture of this person? Why is it a sketch? Now, it may be that the AI image was a sketch done to maybe try to seem artistic off this guy, and they did get the original picture. And they also got the guy's name. Paco isn't his real name. According to Brandy, his name is Yusef Zarate Borbon, a Mexican national wanted for murder, was arrested by Homeland Security and U.S. Marshals. So what you're saying is this GoFundMe was completely full of it and raised $12,000. And the Olympian ran with this story without verifying it. Oh, I left out the best part. Carissa is an anti-ICE activist, and one check of her and her social media would have told you that. So the Olympian ran with this entire story from a GoFundMe page, which we know have issues on the regular, I don't want to say all of them. There are some great causes out there on GoFundMe. I've given to some myself before. I've participated in some myself before. But you have to verify these things. Guess what? It's been taken down. So once again, the left started with a sob story, and the Olympian has such TDS, such Trump derangement syndrome that they go, we believe it. We believe it. We didn't even verify it. They have that line at the bottom. Let me read it to you again. This line at the bottom of the article, which says the Olympian has reached out to the organizers for more information. You didn't get the information from them. You saw a video on the internet, believed it was real, saw a GoFundMe, and it confirmed your bias. And you ran with it. If the numbers go down on crime here in Washington, you know what they're going to say? See, even with a defunded police department, look what we were able to do. Crime's going down. Community solutions work. We don't need to do everything with the police. Or the numbers have been going up. What finally changed? You got a new president. You got a guy who's kicking out the illegal alien criminals. But you're going to see people like Bruce Harrell if he's still in office. You're going to see people like the Washington State Legislature. You're going to see Turd Ferguson. You're going to see all these guys take victory laps on this. And yet none of them are going to give credit where credit is due. That this is because somebody who's willing to break the law is willing to break the law not just in simple categories like coming across the border for a better life is the narrative we keep getting told. But they're willing to break the law in other regards too. DUI, no big deal. Reckless driving, no big deal. What does it matter to them? It's not going to affect their insurance anyway because they don't have any. And you and I are the ones paying for it. Our insurance rates go up. We are the victims of the crime. And I want you to remember, that's the Democrats in the Washington legislature. It's Democrats like Bob Ferguson. It's Democrats like Jay Inslee. It's Democrats like the people in Congress who are the ones who want you to be paying more insurance, who want your businesses to be the ones broken into, who want your cars to be the ones that are hit, who want your family members to be the ones who are affected because they want to stick up for the murderer. Because they want to make Trump look so bad, they are willing to stick up for a murderer. That's their narrative. That's their plan. That's what they are doing. Jay in Tacoma writes over on the Warrior Injury Law text line, Trump's Vision Zero plan is for zero illegals. Oh, that's text of the day right there. Nice, Jay. I like that one a lot. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. Let me know if you think my theory's right, that the reason these traffic accidents are going down is because they're rounding up the illegal aliens even in sanctuary cities and states like Seattle, Tacoma, and Washington. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, a notorious brothel is cited as a chronic nuisance. So why don't we just shut it down and arrest everybody? You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. My wife says to me, as I'm leaving the house this morning, she says, hey, by the way, that funeral home on Rainier Avenue burned to the ground. I said, wait, you mean that one we drive past all the time that's in Columbia City? She said, yeah, burned to the ground this morning. That's how I used to get my kids to school every single day when they were in grade school. I would drive past that thing every single day. And I'm thinking to myself, it's a little weird for the place to burn to the ground. What, cremation go wrong or something? What, did the clients all of a sudden come back to life?
Darkness falls across the land.
No, okay, not that. How does a funeral home burn to the ground? Well, now it's being investigated as arson. A massive fire that destroyed a funeral home in Seattle's Columbia City and a second fire that burned a home under construction in the Mount Baker neighborhood, according to Como News, were both intentionally set, according to the fire department. When firefighters arrived at the Columbus Funeral Home and Crematory, the house was already well involved in flames. Crews took a defensive position, put water on the fire from outside the building. Russ Weeks, who's president of the Columbia Funeral Home and Crematory, said, I'm a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit in shock. I'm just not sure what to think. I'm not sure what the next steps are. That's probably the most challenging thing for me. No injuries were reported. Fire crews were putting out hotspots after the fire was under control. The funeral home has been serving the location, the area, since 1907. Do you know whose funerals were done there? Jimi Hendrix, Washington Governor Albert Rossellini. So, at 4:20 a.m., the Fire Alarm Center received calls about a fire at a home under construction on 33rd Avenue South and South Hanford Street, which is 2 miles from the funeral home. So, they said this fire was so intense and so hot that it burned parked cars, melted pieces of parked cars across the street. Como News has pictures of it. It's insane because cars are all plastic these days. So everything's melting. It charred a utility pole. It's really super bad. Now, they don't know if these two fires are connected, but both are being investigated as arson. So, I'm kind of curious because there is a video of some guy lurking around the funeral home. I don't think somebody came back to life, but what would be the motivation of burning down these places? Or is it just a firebug? Is it just a firebug? And is this going to inspire more copycats? We'll keep an eye on this story. Meanwhile, the Seattle Police Department has declared the Oak Tree Motel on Aurora Avenue, which is basically, as I see it, our neighborhood brothel, according to the news reports. That's how they're all reporting this thing. They're calling it a chronic nuisance property following a series of violent incidents, drug dealing, and human trafficking, launching a crackdown on the property in response. I always wonder this. So the police department does this all the time. They label something a chronic nuisance. Okay, you declared it a chronic nuisance. I declare bankruptcy. Does that mean you're going to go in and arrest everybody? Oh, wait. Pandering's legal here in Washington, right? Sex workers are workers, all that stuff they used to say. So even though there's human trafficking, and even though there's violent incidents, and even though there's drug dealing, all the stuff that goes along with prostitution, you're just a nuisance. You're a nuisance. My God, I'm having flashbacks to like third grade. One of my teachers. You're being such a nuisance. Oh, Mrs. White. Erg. Anyway, can you tell I have PTSD from this woman? You're being such a nuisance. The city sent a chronic nuisance declaration letter to Madeline Investments, the owner of the motel, located on Aurora Avenue North, requiring a response within 7 days to address public safety hazards. They said, time's up for irresponsible owners who turned a blind eye to criminal activity and human suffering. For much of the past year, this motel owner has ignored requests to improve public safety at the Oak Tree, putting the lives of employees, residents, visitors, passerby, and vulnerable populations in danger. By filing this chronic nuisance order, we can improve public safety along the Aurora North corridor. According to police records, the department has visited the 39-room motel 43 times in 2025. 2 weeks ago, police arrested a convicted human trafficker at the motel who claimed that his girlfriend is the manager of the establishment. Following the arrest, the SPD said the manager and the owner refused to cooperate with police. And they've got an entire list of all the things that have happened here. Shots fired, victim shot, person had OD'd, suspect demanded drugs, you name it, selling drugs, all of this. So why don't you just go in there and arrest everybody? Oh, wait, so much of this stuff is legal here in Washington. It's just drugs, victimless crimes, right? We don't need to get anybody treatment. We don't need to arrest any drug dealers. You want to do what you want to do to yourself? That's perfectly fine. Sex work is real work. Let's not do anything about it, right? Sex workers are workers too and have rights too. Let's not get them out of human trafficking. Guys, Aurora Avenue has been a disaster the entire time I've lived in Seattle. I don't remember a time where Aurora Avenue wasn't notorious for being a disaster while I've lived here. Some of you may correct me and say, Ari, I remember when Aurora was beautiful, but here's something else. I can't believe I'm going to say this. Can you really fault the hotel owners? Who's their clientele over there for a minute? That is your clientele, and now that Seattle has turned its back on crime, why wouldn't they just say, yeah, come do your crime here? At least people are renting the rooms, even if it's an hourly rate. This is what is encouraged by these bad policies that the Seattle City Council keeps passing. Meanwhile, I saw this story, and this one here, a 74-year-old Seattle man has been arrested in connection to a hit-and-run incident that left a woman pinned beneath the wheel of a truck where she died from her injuries on the scene. Daniel R. Hayes was arrested by the King County Sheriff's Office earlier last week. The incident began on July 24th when deputies were sent to 68th Avenue South after receiving a report a woman had been hit by a vehicle. A neighbor told Como News that someone in an RV hit several parked cars and trucks, and one of the trucks hit a woman, knocking her to the ground and pinning her. The motorhome continued to cause damage, striking multiple cars before leaving the scene. Surveillance footage from a nearby grocery outlet confirmed the sequence of events. Firefighters arrived to find the woman trapped and quickly lifted the vehicle. They tried to save her life, but she died at the scene. An employee of grocery outlet reported helping a man matching Hayes' description who had requested beer and was seen leaving the parking lot before the collisions occurred. Turns out he was located and stopped, still driving the motorhome the next day, initially claiming the damage from the RV was somebody hitting it while it was parked. But security camera stills, he admitted to purchasing a six-pack of beer, consuming it, and then driving. You know, RVs are hard to drive on a good day. Driving your RV while intoxicated, really bad move. Also, I don't even think this is a homeless RV. I'm looking at this thing. Originally, that's what I thought it was. Doesn't even seem to be that. Just seemed to be like somebody who was drinking and driving. We'll check it out and see if it was one of our unsheltered neighbors, even though it doesn't really fit that MO. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. Is stock trading going to be over for members of Congress? You know who's making a profit? By those who objected today. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, the winning with the economy continues, my friends. The growth, domestic product, the growth of our economy, the numbers are all up today, higher than it's expected. Don't believe me, my friends. Believe my friends over in the mainstream media. The fact that they all have to do this cracks me up. Where do we start? All right, let's start with the business guys. Let's start with CNBC.
Up 3%. Up 3%. Better than expected. That would be the highest level since the third quarter of 24 when it was up 3.1%. On the consumption side, up 1.4, very close to estimates. Up 1.4 would be the best since the last quarter of 24.
Okay. All right. What does CNN have to say?
Some welcome news for the U.S. economy. New numbers show a sharp turnaround after a worrisome first quarter. CNN senior reporter Matt Egan is joining us here in the Situation Room. How big of an improvement is this new report for the U.S. economy?
Well, Wolf, the headline here is a positive one, right? GDP, the broadest measure of the U.S. economy, it did rebound in the second quarter, 3%. That is a solid number, and it also beat expectations. This marks a major improvement from the first quarter when we saw a rare contraction.
Okay. All right. Hang on. You know what? I can't believe these guys. Let's go to Bloomberg. They're the business experts, right?
Well, we've got a stronger than expected GDP number, 3% for the second quarter initial read. That's up from a 0.5% in the first quarter. 2.6% was what was forecast. Now,
okay, I'm just loving all of this. I'm loving all of it. Hang on. I got to go in for more at CNBC.
The left and people that don't like the president and don't want things to work. And, like Senator Elizabeth Warren will come on and say, inflation's out of control and the economy is getting killed by what's happening by these tariffs. This 3% with the market at new highs, and really we haven't seen inflation, go up back to 3%. Maybe it will this week. Maybe we'll see it. But none of these horrible things have happened, but they still talk like it's happening. It's amazing.
Well, there's an important lesson there. Don't pick a congressman to be your money manager. That's what I would say.
Yeah, 100% right. In fact, who are they talking about when they say things like this? Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, after all these reports came out today, here's what he said on the floor of the Senate.
And while the Trump administration will try to wave rosy headlines about the Q2 number, today's GDP number is in fact a mirage, because some ominous numbers lurk under the hood. Business investment plunged in the second quarter by 3.1%. The fact that business investment plunged so starkly is very troubling. It shows that already businesses are worried about growing their operations, worried about hiring more workers.
Stop. I don't know where he's getting these numbers from. I really, really don't. But like CNBC said, don't hire a member of Congress to be your stockbroker. But maybe hire their stockbrokers. Because you know what my guess is? My guess is this is all assumption. But that Nancy Pelosi goes home and says to Paul, we just made a deal with the CHIPS Act. I don't know what that means, but we're going to be making more chips in the U.S. Can you tell the stockbroker? And Paul Pelosi, once he's had a few margaritas, calls up the stockbroker and says, yeah, my wife says they're going to be making chips in the U.S. And the stockbroker goes, oh, that means it's probably this, invest in these things. Is there a stock tracker for Nancy Pelosi's investments or for Paul Pelosi's investments? Because I would follow that tomorrow. And anything they buy, I would buy if there was that. But the truth is they shouldn't be doing any of that kind of stuff. President of the United States has to put all his stuff in a blind trust anytime he's in office. So why don't members of Congress have to do the exact same thing? The truth is they should. Now, there's a fight going on Capitol Hill right now, and I'll make sure to get all the audio for you tomorrow, but the fight going on Capitol Hill is fascinating to watch because they are proposing, it's called the Pelosi Act, which is even funnier. I forget what it exactly stands for, but they made it spell Pelosi, which is about stock trading and how you shouldn't be able to do that if you're in Congress. What's fascinating to me is the Democrats and Republicans who are fighting this thing. Anybody who's fighting this thing, you should be asking, why? any of them who are saying, no, we don't want to do this regardless of what party they're in, you should ask why. In fact, let's ask our president what he said about Nancy Pelosi.
You know, Nancy Pelosi became rich by having inside information. She made a fortune with her husband, and I think that's disgraceful. So in that sense, I'd like it, but I'd have to really see I study these things very carefully, and this just happened. So I'll take a look at it. But conceptually, I like it. And what I do think is Nancy Pelosi should be investigated, because she has the highest return of anybody practically in the history of Wall Street, save a few. How did that happen? It happened by she knows exactly what's going to happen, what's going to be announced. She buys stock, and then the stock goes up after the announcement's made. And she ought to be investigated.
Yeah, and so should other members of Congress as well. So to sum up, gross domestic product is up, economy is growing. So why didn't they bring down interest rates today? Now, I know a lot of people are mad at Jerome Powell because they say if you bring down interest rates, then people will start buying houses and people will start buying cars. There's one little teensy tiny problem, is that the GOP, the one big beautiful bill, is a spending bill. Does it cut things? Absolutely. But a lot of those cuts are going to be done over time, assuming certain things work and assuming you grow the economy. The problem is if you don't grow the economy more, those cuts aren't going to happen, which means for right now it's still a spending bill, which means what the Federal Reserve is worried about is inflation popping back up again because it's still spending. What I really want to see is the Doge cuts, more Doge rescissions. I want to see more cuts. Musk found over $500 billion in waste, fraud, and abuse. Why aren't we making those cuts permanent? You do more of that, I think you can loosen up the Federal Reserve. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. Remember, at 4 o'clock, your chance to take the trip or keep the cash. And Media Matters, the media watchdogs for the left. Is cancel culture dying? Is Media Matters gone for good? I'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Before we go to the Woke Report, big shout out to our friend Scott from West Seattle who's watching over on X, and he commented on the live feed that there is a Twitter account that tracks Nancy Pelosi's stock purchases. How did I not know about this thing? I'm not giving you financial advice, but I know what I'm going to analyze right after the show today. That's right, my friends. Most of you probably haven't heard of Media Matters. Media Matters is a Soros-funded attack dog. Basically, it's the beginnings of cancel culture. We don't like your reporting. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and get it debunked, and if we can't debunk it, we're going to destroy you professionally so you're not credible anymore. Anytime they don't see anything, anytime they see anything they don't like, they write it up, make it an article, and you have these ranking sites that push in analytics how much attention something gets based on how reliable it is or not. So George Soros and crew set up Media Matters to be the watchdog for the left, which means anything they don't like, they start rating it as not true, fake news, misinformation, disinformation, whatever the case may be. And then the reliability of it gets pushed down, 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 so the websites don't bump it up. Well, now they've been hit by a ton of lawsuits by Elon Musk, probes, attorney generals because of donor fraud, defamation, lying, flat out lying. When I saw that they're on the brink of collapse, I went back because I remember they wrote a few things about me during the autonomous zone. They didn't like the reporting that was coming out on the autonomous zone, so they tried to debunk it as much as they could. They were trying to say that I lied when I was being interviewed by Fox News about what was going on inside the autonomous zone. Now, guys, fact check me. Is this true? Is it not? I'm going to read to you what they said was false. You ready? Ari Hoffman described Chaz as a glorified homeless encampment where you're concerned you might get hepatitis or perhaps coronavirus. Pretty clever, I got to say. By the way, that's out of context. Would you like to know what I actually said? I went back and found the clip of what I actually said. I was reacting to when former Mayor Jenny Durkin called it a street fair and a block party. I said I was describing how part of it was the activists and part of it was the homeless encampment. That's what I actually said. And then I said, oh, yeah, it's a street fair or a block party, all right. One you might get hepatitis or coronavirus from. That's what I actually said. So they took me out of context and then tried to say I was lying. Here's something else they did. So do you remember when the activists from Chaz were going around and they were saying, well, you know, it'd be a shame if anything happened to your business, so maybe give us a few bucks and nothing will happen to your business? Remember all that? The mafia-style tactics? Well, do you remember how the left tried their very, very best to debunk that? I'm one of the people who reported that. I was down there at the time. So first they tried to debunk me by saying they traced the claim to an article written on the right-wing site The Post-Millennial. I wasn't working for KVI at the time, written by Ari Hoffman, who ran unsuccessfully for Seattle City Council in 2019. What is my past political history relevant to the article? It's not. Hoffman said his sources were rock solid. Okay, so they were, and you know that there were lawsuits because of it afterwards where the plaintiffs won. And yet you guys are trying to say that was false. It wasn't. So what Media Matters does is they're the original cancel culture. We don't like what you're saying. It may be factually accurate. We don't like it, so we're going to destroy you. We're going to take you down because we don't like what you're saying. That's not freedom of speech. And that's the origins of cancel culture. When they would go to businesses during the BLM riots, how come you don't have a black square? How come you don't have a BLM sign? How come you don't say Black Lives Matter? How come you don't do that? That's where all this started. Good riddance to bad rubbish. It should be going away because all it does is pushing the liberal narrative. It's not actually about truth. It's about, oh, we can't handle the facts. You can't handle the truth. That's what Media Matters was about. So glad it's going away, along with cancel culture. is Sydney Sweeney, the one who's actually taken down cancel culture? Because that's kind of funny. Lots more to discuss. Lots more to discuss. As the show continues, your chance to take the trip or keep the cash, plus some new insanity out of Washington that even blew me away. We'll tell you what it was when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Kamala Harris decides not to run for governor of California. We've got the reasons why, but before we get to any of that, my friends, you work hard. You need a giveaway. Perhaps you need some financial relief. You do live in Washington, after all, and things ain't cheap around here. Well, my friends, we've got you covered with KVI's Take the Trip or Keep the Cash. This week, you can get away on an Alaskan cruise and see glaciers and whales and have dinner with a view of the wild. Or have a chance at $3,000 cash. Now, all you have to do is text the keyword, and only the keyword, not your name, not your address, not your phone number, not your zip code, not Ari Hoffman. You are the most good-looking guy in all of Washington State, even with your receding hairline. You could say all that later in the show. Just text the keyword to the number I give you, not to my social media. Don't call us with it, just to the number I give you. And we'll get you in the daily drawing to get a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, and you could win the trip or keep the cash with KVI. Today's word is snow, as in let it snow, as in John Snow, as in snow man, as S-N-O-W, as in another word for cocaine is snow. Yes, text the word snow, S-N-O-W. to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. You have until 5 p.m. to enter. Your next chance at winning comes tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Remember to check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. See, Mike, I think it's a missed opportunity. They should have played that at the end of one of the later Die Hard movies. Instead of Let It Snow, I mean, put on something a little bit more modern. Maybe with your Live Free or Die Hard. Or maybe with your It's a Good Day to Die Hard. I mean, not much could have made that movie worse. I happen to like the song, but maybe that could have fixed it up a little bit. But yeah, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Remember to enter the word snow, S-N-O-W, at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757 before 5 p.m. Switching gears over to what's going on around here. Can we talk about the tsunami for a minute and the media's reaction to it? For this, I'm going to resurrect a golden oldie.
We are going to die.
We are going to die. You're going to die. I'm going to die. We're all going to die. Just not today.
The media went wall to wall on the tsunami that wasn't. Now, I understand the caution. I truly, truly do. You're dealing with Mother Nature. And you're saying, hey, guys, we don't know what this thing is going to do, but that's not what they did. What they did was they said, it's a massive tsunami. Get to high ground now. Quick run. Get to high ground. We're all going to die. Every news outlet went wall to wall on this sucker. And I understand we don't get tsunami warnings often. We don't get tsunami watches often. And you had this massive earthquake right there in Russia, off the coast of Russia, and it created these waves. But you realize you got a whole ocean between us and them? Now, what's stopping me from fully making fun of everybody's reaction to this is there was some severe flooding in Hawaii. There really, really was. But for Washington and California? Guys, really? We're really that concerned about this thing? The problem with the panic porn over something like this is that next time everybody's going to say, remember the last time we got one of these warnings? It was a nothing burger. We're not going to listen to you. So it is kind of similar to the Rona in that regard, where people go, yeah, I don't believe you. That's the problem of what can happen next time. So you see the stuff going on, and you see the media's reaction to it, and you see this thing happening, and now you're going to have a healthy dose of skepticism next time. Did we have one of these not too long ago, and they said, oh, there's another tsunami, and it was a nothing burger? When this thing started coming in, what really upset me was when they kept saying something like this. Well, the swells are only 3 to 4 feet, but there could be more behind them. They're only 3 to 4 feet, but they could be piling up underground, and there could be this massive wave on the way. Guys, it's okay to say we're being cautious because we don't know. Because otherwise, people don't respect you the next time. It's okay to say we don't know, we urge caution. That's not what it was. They made it sound like the wave from the day after tomorrow was coming our direction. They made it sound like the wave from Deep Impact, the awful version of Armageddon, was on our way and Elijah Wood and that random girl are up on a hill somewhere. That's what they made it seem like, and I understand caution. I do. I understand urging caution, but when you know there's no problem, calm down. Calm down. Is it crazy seeing the whales wash up on the shore of Japan? Yeah, that's nuts. That's crazy. Japan is pretty far away from here. So guys, next time I would prefer a little I don't know. That's just me personally. You agree with me, you disagree with me on this, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Como News had a fascinating article that grabbed my attention. Here's the headline. Tumwater multi-car crash suspect's history raises questions about juvenile rehabilitation. That's something we talk about on the show all the time. And there's a picture of a red SUV, or what used to be a red SUV. It's just completely demolished and totaled against the side of a building way past the sidewalk. An 18-year-old suspect is now awaiting charges for a multi-car crash DUI in Tumwater. And a look at his criminal record shows a history of run-ins with law enforcement leading up to the crash that left a 70-year-old woman in critical condition. Como News learned that the State Department of Children, Youth, and Families, as well as court documents that the suspect had been released from juvenile custody at the Green Hill School state-run detention center for juveniles in Chehalis, Washington. He had been sentenced up to 2.5 years at the school for pleading guilty to second-degree assault after repeatedly ramming into a police cruiser while admitting to have been high on meth as a 14-year-old. While on parole, DCYF told Como he was placed on electric home monitoring and that he was required to attend 3 in-person meetings with a counselor every week. DCYF ultimately revoked that parole and issued a warrant out for the man when they didn't contact their counselor on July 14th. Quote, DCYF staff spent the following days tracking the young person and in constant communication with several law enforcement agencies to track the young person's whereabouts. On July 18th, the counselor tracked the young person's location to Tumwater, called the Tumwater police to request a check of the area. A few hours later, we received a call from Tumwater police that the young person was arrested. It's yet another story that reminds Republican Representative Travis Couture of District 35, friend of the show, why he sponsored a bill to investigate juvenile rehabilitation and diversion programs earlier this year. HB 1248 would make it so Washington State Institute for Public Policy would be tasked with carrying out evaluations and cost-benefit analysis of the various juvenile programs designed to help Washington's troubled youth and teens so they don't become re-offenders. The bill would make it so those evaluations are done every 2 years. Now, this story is something where everything was avoidable. And I think it's a different perspective of how to approach these juvenile offenders. So somebody like me who's more of a throw the book at them, but I got kids and kids screw up and I was a youth director and teenagers screw up. Sometimes you go, it's a case-by-case scenario. And the problem is DCYF and Washington State seem to want to take the approach of how quickly can we get the juveniles out of jail? You should be taking the approach of how can we make this kid lead a successful life? Not how quickly can you get them out of jail. It should be, we want this kid to be a contributing member of society. We want this kid to have a job. We want this kid to have the absolute best and have the best life and make a great living and have a beautiful spouse and a beautiful car. I live in that beautiful house and my beautiful wife and my beautiful car. You want that to happen. But it seems like here they just go, nope, jail's racist. Nope, this stuff's racist. We just want you out of it and we want to close all the facilities. You ever hear of tough love? Tough love is, guess what? Sometimes you gotta potch the kid a little something. Sometimes you gotta punish the kid. Sometimes that kid has to go to their room. And we all have friends who don't punish their kids, and those kids are maniacs. We all have that one friend. I guarantee right now as you're listening to the show, you're thinking of your friend who doesn't discipline their kids at all and lets them run around. And if you don't have that friend, you're the friend. Sorry, guys. That's just the way it is. I just want my kids to like me. You know, my kids like me just fine, and we had to discipline them a time or two. But that's the problem here. Washington State doesn't want to discipline anybody. How quickly can we let them out of jail, whether they're kids or adults? Not, how do we get them to be functional members of society? Now, if you want to say to me, Ari, when we send people into jail, oftentimes it just makes them worse. Okay, that's a conversation. How do we fix that? Are we doing enough job training? Are we doing enough education? Are we doing enough drug treatment? Are we doing enough to set them up for success afterwards? The stories I hear from people who are released from jail and the halfway houses they have to live at, and the nightmares that go on there, even for white-collar crimes, that they put these guys in, where if they want to get into drug trafficking or prostitution or any other criminal enterprise, it can be done in the halfway house. When I hear those horror stories, are there reforms to be made in our justice system? Absolutely. In our correction system? Abso-flippin-lutely. But there's a difference between actual reforms and let's burn the whole thing to the ground. I bet you if we called one of our friends who runs one of the corrections unions and had them back on the show and said, all right, blank check and you're in charge, how would you fix corrections? I am sure they would give you a laundry list of how to do it. But it's politics, or it's funding, or it's some ridiculous law, or whatever it is that's getting in the way of actually fixing these things. So now you've got a woman in critical condition, and you've got a teenager who's going back to jail because the system failed them. You didn't set this kid up for success. You know, there's this kid who used to be a discipline problem in a youth program that I used to run. And I realized the kid was very aggressive, very, very aggressive, and had no outlet to vent that aggression. I got them in the military. And you know what? Great kid now. Great kid now. Because the military knocked all that ego out of them, channeled that aggression into the flux capacitor, channeled it into a functional use of society. But around here, we don't want to do that. We don't want to get the druggies treatment. We don't want to get the people with mental health issues treatment. We want to leave them sleeping on the streets. We want to leave them having their full-on mental health breakdowns out on the streets harming others. We want to leave them dying on the streets or in an apartment or whatever it is from overdoses because we expect nothing in return. You know, President Trump was asked about the executive order he signed the other day, the one where he's redirecting away from harm reduction, which is assisted suicide, away from housing first, which is just, well, let's go overdose in an apartment. We've seen the inside of DC, of the Downtown Emergency Services, DESC. We've seen the inside of these facilities. It's just people doing drugs inside. You need to have accountability. You need to have people getting treatment. And a reporter asked him what all this was about. Here's his response.
I saw homeless people sleeping right outside the gates of the White House. Are you concerned about that?
I think it's terrible, and we'll have them removed immediately. We do remove it. We've got to get the mayor to run this city properly. This city has to be run. You know, I have the right to take it over, and I think it's terrible. Where are they? Where did you see them?
Just right outside on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Near the Treasury.
Right across the Mafia Park near the Treasury.
Imagine that symbol for a second. The president's mansion, and you got homeless people sleeping outside. The Department of the Treasury, and you've got homeless people sleeping outside. The other day, I told you the story how I was walking to Bite of Seattle. I wasn't going to Bite of Seattle. I was just going to Starbucks to get a coffee. Didn't know it was Bite of Seattle over at the Seattle Center. And I walked past Climate Pledge Arena. And as I'm walking past Climate Pledge Arena, I almost stepped on a guy sleeping on the street. Didn't even notice he was there. Almost stepped right on him. And the picture of him outside Climate Pledge Arena, my God. We made a pledge to the climate. We're going to fix the climate, but we're going to let all these people litter on the streets and sleep on the streets and pollute the streets and do all that kind of stuff. The contrast, the irony is absolutely insane. The truth is, the Democrats don't want to solve this issue. The Democrats have created a new industry. Homeless Inc. And Homeless Inc. feeds on itself. Well, if you just give us more money, we'll fix the problem. Well, then why are your numbers constantly going up of homeless people and you're spending more money than ever's been spent before? And it's been getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Oh, because there's more homeless people now. Because the economy is so bad. Because Donald... No. Donald Trump has not been the president for 4 years. He was not the president for 4 years. And the numbers went through the roof during those 4 years. Can't blame him for that. Also, this problem started long before he was president the first time. But what I'm worried about is that now Bruce Harrell, Bob Ferguson, everybody in the Washington State Legislature, they're going to say, well, because Donald Trump defunded Homeless Inc., they're not going to call it Homeless Inc., because he did that, we need to raise the taxes on you because we need the money. Here's something else with Homeless Inc. There's something new, which is the affordable housing grift. They always say we need to build more affordable housing. We need to build more affordable housing. Yet they spend triple what these property costs in order to buy them. And on top of that, housing doesn't get more affordable. It's just free giveaways for the drug addicts and the mental health people and the criminals while you are stuck paying for it, so it makes your housing less affordable. Because the government realized that the real estate business is profitable and they can make money off it. Now, they make money off it differently than landlords do. Landlords rent it out to somebody, make a little bit of a profit. What do? Apply for government grants, whether they're federal, whether they're state, whether they're nonprofit, whatever the case may be. They get those grants and they milk them for all they're worth. They get those taxes, every single dollar towards affordable housing. You think they're going to give that up? I don't think so. At 4:30 today, we're going to be joined by Dr. Robert Marbut and our friend Jonathan Cho from the Discovery Institute, who are really the ones that I credit with making this a national conversation and bringing it to the White House's attention. Jonathan's videos from not just Seattle, but also San Francisco and Los Angeles and all the other places he goes have gone uber viral. Dr. Robert Marbut, I've met him multiple times in person whenever he's in Seattle. We love having him on. He has been fighting this for years, especially against the drug problems because he lost family members to the drug and fentanyl crisis. These are personal. This is personal for them. And we're finally moving the needle because now, instead of funding assisted suicide, which is what harm reduction is, you might actually get these people into treatment. Instead of saying housing first, but we expect nothing from you, so people just die in these buildings run by the downtown emergency services, we're saying, you want to live in these apartments? You're going to get treatment. And here's the thing you should be asking. Why would anybody say the other way works? It hasn't worked for the last 15 years? So why do they think it works now? They're going to use Donald Trump as a scapegoat, but they're not going to be able to answer that simple question of, if your method works, why hasn't it worked for the last 15 years, the last 18 years? Since they announced, we're going to stop homelessness in 10 years. Really, how's that going for you? Because your numbers have only gotten worse. Speaking of numbers getting worse, when we come back, my friends, Kamala Harris isn't liking the polling that she's seeing, and she has decided not to run for governor of California. We'll analyze and discuss when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I got to tell you guys, I'm really, really sad today. So sad. Tear running down my cheek as we speak. Why? Because Kamala Harris has announced that she will not run for governor of California. And I am so sad because I was looking forward to more segments like Deep Thoughts with Vice President Kamala Harris. And now we don't get to do them anymore. I mean, it'll be sporadic. From time to time, she'll do an interview and say something stupid, and then we'll play the music and we'll talk about her. But we just, I'm so sad. I was really looking forward to endless content making fun of Kamala Harris. And now we don't get to do it anymore. Oh, the humanity. By the way, you know who's probably crying the most, more than us over here? Kamala Harris. You know why? Because she doesn't get to run for governor. She probably looked at the numbers and said, there is no way in hell you could actually win this. Actually, I take that back. You know who the saddest person is today? Probably Doug Emhoff. Because he doesn't get to sleep with any more campaign staff. I mean, allegedly. I mean, oh no, sorry. Whoa, shouldn't say that kind of stuff. That's right. Doug Emhoff. Yeah, how'd he do with that Taylor Swift endorsement? Former Vice President Kamala Harris has officially ruled out a run for governor of California after serious thought. Sorry, that's the official statement. That's the official statement. You think this woman has serious thoughts? You need a montage. Even Rocky had a montage.
Break it down in layman's terms for people who don't understand what's going on and how can this directly affect the people of the United States.
So Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia.
We campaign with the plan. Uppercase T, uppercase P, the plan.
Do you have plans to visit the border?
Not today. But I have before, and I'm sure I will again.
I've said I'm going to go to the border. And when are you going to the border, Vice President?
The administration has asked. I'm not finished. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
I'm being clear with you right now.
Yes, okay.
And so if you're interested, I'll continue to be clear. There are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't, there's no Kinko's, there's no Office Max near them. It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. We are doing it.
But should we have done it sooner?
We are doing it.
What do you see as the biggest national security challenge confronting the U.S.? What is the thing that worries you and keeps you up at night?
Frankly, one of them is our democracy.
You don't feel misused or underused?
No, I don't. When folks vote, they order what they want, and in this case, they got what they asked for. I went off script a little bit.
I can't imagine her having any deep thoughts whatsoever. Quote, in recent months, I've given serious thought. Sorry, I can't get through that without laughing. To asking the people of California for the privilege to serve as their governor. I love this state, its people, and its promise. It is my home, but after deep reflection, deep reflection, I've decided that I will not run for governor in this election. For now, my leadership, sorry, I can't. And public service will not be an elected office. I look forward to getting back out and listening to the American people, helping elect Democrats across the nation who will fight fearlessly, and sharing more details in the months ahead of my own plans. You mean D-plan? Capital T, capital P, that plan? You're going to share that, the plan. You think any Democrat wants her endorsement? Does any Democrat? She is kryptonite. You think she's going to be going around the country? They're going to say, stay the hell out of my district. We don't want you or your cackle. All right, we're going to do a little thing here. I found the Kamala Harris laugh track. I want you to text us when you've had enough, okay? So I'm going to play this sucker. I'm not going to tell you how long it is. But when you've had enough, just text in the word Kamala. Oh, no. You know what? Text in the word mercy. Text in the word mercy. Text in the word mercy to 206-421-5757. Don't text stop or you unsubscribe. Don't do that. Text in the word mercy to 206-421-5757.
Poor hubby. Poor hubby.
Not.
Okay, I can't take it anymore. That one goes on another 30 seconds. I love Ernie over here on the text line. He has texted the word mercy multiple times at this point because it's just too much. It's just too, no more uncle, crying uncle. Yeah. This one here from Murphy. Well, she's going to go around the country and try to help other Dems if they even want her around. So she might make no sense with those people either if they let her talk. Yeah, nobody's going to want her in their districts. Nobody at all. Ugh, unbelievable. You think she's going to run for president again? Let me know if you think she's going to run for president again. Oh, if I only have more time, it'll be a more effective campaign, right? Yeah, I don't think so. When we come back, my friends, Jonathan Cho, Dr. Robert Marbut join us to talk about what it means now that Donald Trump has signed the executive order redirecting funds on homelessness. What does it mean for our area? What's going to happen to Homeless Inc.? You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. With Donald Trump signing the executive order that is now changing the entire homeless industrial complex by taking away money from failed programs like Housing First, failed programs like harm reduction, which is basically just assisted suicide, it is really moving the needle and it's going to save lives. And I got to say, a lot of the credit is due to our friends Dr. Robert Marbut and Jonathan Cho from the Discovery Institute, because it's their videos, their research, their work on the drug addiction, on the mental health problems, on the crime problems, which got the attention of the White House and moved the needle. And now joining me on the Warrior Injury Law studio line is Dr. Marbut and Jonathan Cho. Doc, I'll start with you. So this is huge. You've been working on this for years. And it looks like it's moving the needle where now we're going to fund actual solutions as opposed to these failed, quote unquote, solutions.
I have to applaud President Trump. He did more in that one signing last Thursday than basically all of our efforts over the last couple of decades to get nuttiness reversed. I mean, the simple idea, like you see in the background of where Jonathan there is, why we would use taxpayer programs to help people with addiction and substance use disorder to get more drugs is mind-boggling. Why aren't we spending money on treatment and recovery, which is what the executive order directs the federal policy to start doing?
Yes, and as Dr. Marbut mentioned, Jonathan Cho is joining us, and he's literally right now at 12th and Jackson to show us how bad it is out there on the streets. This is the legacy of Housing First. This is the legacy of harm reduction, where you see people living on the streets. You see people in mental health crisis. You see people in drug crisis. Jonathan, this thing was just signed last week. What is it doing locally?
Well, look, it's sent a seismic shockwave through the homeless industrial complex. We're talking about the nonprofits that have doubled down, tripled down, made billions of dollars off of Housing First. Yet the results have just been devastating. I'm at 12th and Jackson right now. You have open-air drug use still happening right across the street from some of this permanent supportive housing. And a lot of these men and women are doing fentanyl right here on the street with the harm reduction supplies, the free fentanyl, foil, the meth pipes that were given out, taxpayer funded, and all of that is going to come to an end eventually under this executive order. So we're excited about that, but it's not going to happen overnight, right? It's going to take culture change. It's going to take policymakers embracing this. But again, I'm here in Chinatown ID in Seattle showing you that there is still crime, chaos, and death on the streets.
Dr. Marbut, you've been out to Seattle many, many times. We've spoken many, many times. This is how you and I started our relationship. You've seen the stuff Jonathan's talking about. Where do we rank in the scope of the country? Because I keep seeing we're behind Los Angeles, San Francisco, us, San Francisco, Los Angeles, us. But given how many people are on the streets and those numbers keep going up, I am convinced we're probably at the top of the list per capita, not third or fourth.
Well, in terms of homeless, you're absolute in terms of like a medium, small, medium, large, extra large city. There's probably a city out there of 100 people that might have a per capita more on homeless than Seattle, like Pine Bluff, Arkansas, or something like that. But in terms of a major city, you're the worst city in America. You're the worst county in America on a per capita basis. And that's why it just blows my mind that the county administrator last year and the sheriff last year got up and did a press conference within 24 hours of the Supreme Court ruling and said, we're not going to follow the Supreme Court ruling. The local community of King County and Seattle can get this fixed. You could start fixing it tonight. Literally, you can start to make change tonight, but it's your local elected officials are the one who are now refusing. They used to say, well, the Supreme Court was against us, or we didn't have the money for this, or it wasn't the right direction. All that's gone now. It is simply a choice of your local elected officials on whether they're going to use common sense solutions or they're going to now triple down. The money being spent is about 3 times more than it was 12 years ago when they said in 10 years it would end with the same amount of money.
Yeah, and it's worse than that because they said when they announced that they had a homeless crisis here and they were going to solve it, there were 3,000 people who are homeless. Now, the counts are somewhere between 15 and 30 in our neck of the woods, and we know those counts are an undercount. Jonathan, you've got your pulse on what's happening here locally. What I'm concerned about is that these agencies are going to double down on failed policy and then tax us for it and then say this is all Donald Trump's fault, rather than recognizing that we got to, as the doc said, the #1 worst place in the country because of their failed policies. And I'm worried that the vote blue, no matter who people are going to believe it.
Yeah, look, I would be for harm reduction and housing first if it wasn't tried for more than a decade now. But the people who are still saying this works, they don't have any argument or leg to stand on anymore. So all of that funding, I want to be also very clear, not only will the homeless industrial complex in terms of housing first and harm reduction be defunded, that money will now simply go into treatment and detox. What the homeless industrial complex is now doing, according to my sources, is they're now talking out of both sides of their mouth. They're now trying to appease federal authorities by saying, we've always been about, treatment and detox. But you can't have both. You can't have harm reduction and treatment and detox. It doesn't work. So, in other words, what it now needs to look like is when you go into these permanent supportive housing situations, people currently are not required to go into any type of treatment program. They're not required to find jobs. They can stay there in perpetuity. But what now needs to happen under this executive order is that once somebody who's addicted to drugs goes into permanent supportive housing, they must enter treatment, then get stabilized, then start looking for a job, and then move on to another short-term housing situation. That's the only way to get these people back into society.
Yeah, I completely agree. In the last few minutes, we have with Dr. Robert Marbut and Jonathan Cho from the Discovery Institute, who I believe it is their research, their work, their videos, their analysis that got the White House to the point where President Trump could sign this executive order changing course on failed homeless policies. Doc, I know that they keep talking about affordable housing, but they tax us to make affordable housing. It seems like they've created an industry, not just in Homeless Inc., as Jonathan's talking about, but also in terms of this affordable housing. It's its own industry where they can never keep it up even if they wanted to. It reminds me of the plot of RoboCop. Make a city bad enough so you can buy up all the real estate at low prices, except around here, because they're such morons, they're buying it up for 3 times its value.
And not only is the whole industrial complex just messing it up, they're also missing the point. You just look at the video right now behind what Jonathan's walking by. That is not an affordable housing problem. That's a substance use disorder, an addiction, a crimeless society that you have in your community now. And to put it in the most simplest ways, the taxpayers of Seattle and King County have made it easy to get high and hard to get treatment and recovery. We need to flip that on its head and make it easy to get treatment, recovery, and hard to get high.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Jonathan, I'll give final words over to you. This must be very validating for all your work, because given all the crap that you get from public officials, given all the garbage you get with being chased down by crazies, by Antifa, by everything else, you literally put your life on the line to save others. How does it feel when you heard that executive order got signed?
Well, I wasn't quite ready to take a victory lap, but we are going to do more work because more work needs to be done. And what I'm really realizing my role is, really for the first time, is that we are engaged in an information war. A decade ago, when all of these failed public policies were implemented, you just had mainstream media. They were parroting only one side, that homelessness root causes was the lack of affordable housing. We now know the root causes are drug addiction, mental illness, and broken relationships. And it's my job to kind of balance that messaging. And again, there's a lot of storytelling that needs to be done on the streets of Seattle.
I got to say this before I let both of you go. I'm honored to know both of you. I'm honored to call both of you friends. And you're literally going to save people's lives. The people in the background of Jonathan's video as he's walking around right now near 12th and Jackson in that neighborhood, you guys move the needle. And even though people were telling you, no, you're wrong, you guys kept at it because you knew you were right. And I think there's a lot of people that are going to owe both of you a big thank you one day, but I know that's not why you did it. I know you did it because it's the right thing to do. Jonathan Cho, Dr. Robert Marbut from the Discovery Institute. Kudos to you guys. Amazing job. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks again, Ari, for amplifying this truth.
Always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, you have just under 10 minutes to enter that keyword we gave you at 4 o'clock for your chance to take the trip or keep the cash. That's right, my friends. And don't forget, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to see Adam Sandler and crew right here in Seattle. Yet another reason, always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Well, Mamdani is back from his extravagant wedding with private security and electronic jamming devices and the gajillionaire's mansion in Uganda. And he's facing some pretty harsh criticism because this is the guy who wants to defund the police. Now, after the shooting the other day, where a police officer was killed, and after Mamdani shows up with private security provided by the New York Police Department, and he comes from his wedding with the very expensive private security, he was asked, hey, how do you feel about defunding them police?
And that was your first stop after coming back from Uganda. Talk to me about that. You've had security concerns. Did you fly commercial? Did you fly private? I know the Post reported on extra security at your wedding celebration. Was that a heightened sense of security, and did you have any issues going to customs?
My life is sadly not the one that it was. There are far more threats, and with that comes precautions that I wish I didn't have to take, though they are also precautions that I am immensely grateful for, especially in the example of the NYPD detail that I have here in New York City.
So I want it for me. I'm grateful for me, for them, for me, but you shouldn't have them. No. You guys shouldn't have them. I need it because I'm important for me, but not for thee. By the way, it's absolutely crazy watching the Democrat Party get yanked to the left. I love how they like to say the entire Republican's been taken over by Trump. The entire Democrat Party is being taken over by Mamdani. Why? Just like with Bernie Sanders, when you promise people lots of free stuff, they're going to say, I want the free stuff. I want the free stuff. And because he's polling so well, and the polling actually shows that even if all the New York City candidates combined right now, it's too late. He's probably going to win anyway. Things could always happen, but that's what it looks like with the polling right now, because you have such terrible candidates running in this race that all the Democrats are lining up behind him, including ones who want to be president, like Pete Buttigieg.
I was talking the other day to a Democratic member of Congress representing part of New York City who said to me, essentially what you're saying, Mamdani in many ways is the future. He knew how to campaign. He's doing everything right. There's a lot to learn from him. And this lawmaker said, I haven't endorsed him yet because I have a lot of Orthodox Jews in my district. What do you make of that contradiction?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of distinguishing between tactics and ideology. And I would say, he's further left than I am. But also, I think that what he's been able to do is something that our party ought to learn from.
And they're all lining up behind the guy who supports Hamas. Oh, we should learn from that. All lining up behind the guy who wants to defund the police. All lining up behind the guy who wants to move us completely over to socialism. This is the path of the Democrat Party. How do I know? Here's Minnesota Democrat Chair Richard Colburn saying that's exactly what they're going to be doing.
Let me say this very clearly. We are a Big Ten party. We are a coalition by definition, the Democratic Farmer Labor Party. Our party is made up of farmers and laborers. Our party is made up of progressives, environmentalists, feminists, democratic socialists, gays, lesbians, bisexual, transgender. We come from different places. We come from different spaces. We represent what is best about America.
What's best about America? This is what the Democrat Party is. They're not hiding the ball. They're saying we are embracing the socialism. We are embracing the democratic socialism. There's no more Democrat Party, my friends. Not at all. There's no more Democrat Party. What you are seeing now is a drag to the left by the socialists. That's what you're going to see. Now, tell me if you agree with me. Do you think the Democrat Party is being completely destroyed? Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Also, give me your thoughts on Mamdani. Is he the true leader of the party right now? When we come back, my friends, we'll take your calls. We'll take your texts. We'll weigh in on all this. Plus, don't forget our good news giveaway coming up at 5:45. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to see Adam Sandler. But before we get to any of that, my friends, in the last hour, I asked you about Zoran Mamdani's hypocrisy. Oh, security guards for me, but I want to defund the police for you. And a lot of you had a lot of reactions about Mamdani and whether or not he's the one who's actually running the Democrat Party. And if they're following his model for success, and if the Democrat Party is even the Democrat Party anymore. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Ted in Gig Harbor. Ted, what's going on?
Well, number one, Ari, everybody's mispronouncing this guy's name. He's Zero Mad Manny.
I like Mad Manny. I like that one. You better get used to it, buddy, because I think this guy's going to get elected based on the polling right now, and I think we're going to be stuck with him for a long time.
He, Lenin said it, the goal of socialism is communism. So, yeah, these people are, I think the Democrat Party is going to go, they're going to lose a lot of people because, in their hearts, although they're for big programs and all that stuff, most Democrats are not communists.
Well, here's the thing. I think that at this point, they're happy with communism because then the elites get everything, and it's the little people who suffer. Aren't they the ones who like the elite stuff? How's Nancy Pelosi doing?
Yeah, you're right. The only difference between fascism and communism, fascism has one dictator. Communism has like a whole group of little dictators,
Wait, isn't that Congress?
Difference.
Isn't that Congress right now? Ted, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Robin Lakewood says, Democrats, it's not JFK's party anymore. Looks like Tammy agrees with him on the Warrior Injury Law text line. She says there are two separate, distinct parties within the Democratic Party. I think they should split and have a Socialist Party and a Democratic Party. Think of what that would do for Republicans. I don't know about that because what I think is going to happen, Tammy, I hear where you're coming from. I think the whole party is just going to be dragged over to socialists, and you're not going to see any difference anymore. Look how they are right now. They're all supporting this guy. They're all backing this guy. Here's Kathy Hochul, governor of New York. Rather than defending law enforcement, she defends the Democratic Socialist, Hamas-supporting, defund the police advocate.
Governor, the shooting comes as you're facing your own tough re-election campaign, and Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who could challenge you in that race, posted to X overnight saying, we cannot allow radical anti-police, dangerous policies to continue. And then she went on to attack the New York mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani, saying, flashback, Kathy Hochul's very own Kami Mamdani, a disgrace and truly unfit to be mayor of New York City. The post, June 2020 post from Mamdani calling to, quote, defund the police. What do you say to Congresswoman Stefanik?
That's about as pathetic as it gets. I mean, seriously, going after an unelected official who said something back in 2020 when many people were. I mean, come on, give me a break.
So you're backing him up for saying defund the police and you're backing up BLM and you're backing up Antifa. You're not backing up your own police officers? You know who provides security for Kathy Hochul? The New York State Patrol. Not backing up your own security detail. Tough re-election campaign. Yeah, she's lucky if she gets reelected. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Carol in Kirkland. Carol, what's going on?
Hi, just quickly, I was very curious about the ability of the Kirkland City Council to endorse candidates running for the city council office in this term. There's little signs that are attached to the candidate signs, and they are a city council endorsement, a little red card attached to them. So I didn't think that was legal. Thought that was not legal.
Well, they did it as an entity, or they each member of the Kirkland City Council did it on their own?
It doesn't say, it just says city council. When they use that term, they're using it in the whole.
Can you do me a favor?
So
Can you snap a picture of one of those things and send it on over to me? ari@kvi.com, ari@kvi.com.
Yeah, I'd like to see those things taken out in the next few hours.
I don't know if I can make it happen that quick. But do me a favor, send it over to me. I'll check with some people if it's a campaign law violation, okay?
Okie dokie. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Carol. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, my friends, we've got some breaking news for you right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
Washington State's own Joe Kent has just been confirmed by the Senate as the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. He'll be working together with Tulsi Gabbard. This is huge for us. This is very, very good news. But before he was confirmed, Senator Patty Murray, the career politician who built her brand on being a mom in tennis shoes, thinks she's qualified to call Joe Kent unfit to serve as director of counterterrorism. Yeah, you heard that right. The former preschool teacher with a degree in physical education, the gym teacher from Washington State University, who somehow climbed her way to the vice chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, says a decorated Green Beret who spent more than 20 years in the U.S. Army Special Forces is unfit because she claims he has white supremacist views.
So here's my warning to Republicans. Confirming someone like Joe Kent to lead the National Counterterrorism Center makes about as much sense as putting Donald Trump in charge of releasing the Epstein files after all that we have learned. We have all the evidence we could ever need in the public record right now that he's not going to do the right thing. And we have no reason to believe he will do this important, high-stakes work in a serious, impartial manner, let alone a competent one. So, Mr. President, I'm here to urge all my colleagues to join me in doing exactly what people back in Washington State have done each time they were asked to trust Joe Kent. Vote no.
Wait a second. I'm confused. Are you talking about Joe Kent or are you talking about Donald Trump? What does the Epstein files have to do with any of this? She shared this video, and you want to know what she wrote when she shared it on her own social media accounts? The Senate should not confirm a man with white supremacist views to be the director of counterterrorism. Joe Kent is also a conspiracy theorist. Colleagues, let's please do exactly what the people in Washington did each time they were asked to vote for Joe Kent. Vote no. She called him a white supremacist. He's the worst white supremacist ever. This is a guy who comes on the Jewish talk radio show's host all the time. All the time. Anytime we ask him to, he comes on the show. In fact, I'm going to ask him right at the commercial break today to see if he want to come back now that he's been confirmed by the Senate. We'd love to have him on. Worst white supremacist ever. This is a guy who talked about backing Israel. Worst white supremacist ever. Calling him a white supremacist, really, this is what politics has come to? Let's talk about who Joe Kent actually is. He enlisted in the Army at 18, served in the elite 5th Special Forces Group, the Green Berets, completed 11 combat deployments in Iraq, Afghanistan, and elsewhere. He led high-level counterterrorism and special operation missions in some of the most dangerous places on Earth. Donald Trump said he was in the CIA. We didn't know that one, but that's what Donald Trump said when he announced his nomination. Joe Kent has bled for this country. He's risked his life more times than most politicians have bothered to show up for a vote. He's also a Gold Star husband. His wife, Shannon, a Navy cryptologist, was killed by ISIS in Syria while serving her country. He's raising 2 boys on his own. Joe Kent hasn't just studied terrorism. He's lived it. He's buried the love of his life, and he kept serving. And now Patty Murray, who's been parked in Washington, D.C. for over 30 years, think she has the standing to question his qualifications? Let's take a little look at what the phys ed major and preschool teacher has been doing this whole time, the mom in tennis shoes. Patty Murray is the vice chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, which means they decide where money goes. Anybody hear of Doge? You guys haven't been really good about that one, have you? Ranking member of the Subcommittee on Energy and Water Development. Well, let's see. You haven't done anything with either one of those. You've tried to stop energy development, and your FDA and all these other groups have done everything they possibly could, especially the EPA, to mess up our water supply. She's a member of the subcommittees on defense, homeland security, labor, health and human services, military construction, veterans affairs, transportation, and housing. Were any of those in good shape until Donald Trump came along? Any of them? A sitting member of the Senate Budget Committee. Yeah, out of control spending. Health, education, labor, pensions, and the Veterans Affairs Committee. That's just about every committee that touches national security, health care, education, veterans, and the economy. And under her watch, every single one of those areas is in crisis. Let's be honest, this isn't about qualifications, it's about power. Patty Murray doesn't want independent, battle-tested voices like Joe Kent anywhere near the real decision-making. He's not part of the club. He won't play their little games. He's a threat to the establishment because he knows how dangerous the world really is, and he won't sit quietly while bureaucrats fumble away national security behind committee tables. If someone like Joe Kent is put in a position of real influence, he'll expose how bad the current leadership is and how badly they have failed. That's why they tried to destroy his reputation. Patty Murray was a preschool teacher with a degree in gym class. Joe Kent is a decorated Green Beret whose wife gave her life in service of this nation. So maybe, just maybe, she should think twice before attacking a man who's done more for this country in one deployment than she has in 3 decades in the Senate. And you know what? Deep, deep down, she knows it too. That's why she's attacking him. Because she feels so inconsequential next to a man with those qualifications. Let me know what you think about Joe Kent being confirmed by the Senate to Director of Counterintelligence. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Robin Lakewood says, didn't Senator Murray praise bin Laden for building roads? I forgot about that. Oh, I forgot about that. I have to see if I can find that quote anymore. That's a good one. Oh, man. John says a word I can't say on the radio about Senator Murray, but he says, tell her off, demand she resign. This one here from John in Auburn, he says, well, a lot of Johns texting the show today. Ari, I'll take a former military Green Beret over some former gym teacher with green teeth, career do nothing. Yeah, I think that's how everybody basically feels. Larry in Magnolia says, can we call her P.E. Patty? I like that. This is all good stuff. You want to weigh in on Patty Murray or Joe Kent, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, the Democrats have nothing, so they're back to their old tricks. Chuck Schumer is now saying the Democrats, we're going to save the democracy. Why? Because the Republicans want to take away your right to vote.
Because these guys are undoing everything in every way they can. They don't want poor people to vote. They don't want people of color to vote. They don't want Democrats to vote. They don't believe in democracy. We do.
Really? That's why you want people who aren't citizens of our country to vote? That initiative that's going around right now by Jim Walsh and the GOP about guaranteeing that there's voter ID in Washington state, you should be asking yourself why anybody doesn't want that. The only people fighting that are the Democrats. They know they lose power if the illegal aliens continue or are taken off the voter rolls. They know they lose power if these illegal immigrants can't register to vote anymore. They know it, which is why they're so desperate to stop this. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Bob in Seattle. Bob, what's up, man?
Hey, Ari, doesn't Patty Murray have a staff?
Yeah, she does.
Okay, so you're telling me that this staff has stared at Patty Murray for 30 years and never said, you ought to get a different haircut?
Okay, let's not do the personal attacks. Funny, but wrong. Let's not do the personal attacks, but here's this. Her staff agrees with her. When you have a bunch of yes people surrounding you just because they want power too, you never realize you're in the wrong. You never change your views. You never change your positions when they don't work. Nothing Patty Murray has done has helped anybody in Washington. I challenge anybody in this audience who disagrees with me to prove that. I'll give you the last word, Bob.
You do realize that you cannot trust somebody who will not tell you the hard stuff and say, I'm sorry, but that haircut was terrible in the 70s.
Yeah, and it hasn't aged well. Hasn't aged well at all, shall we say. Neither have those tennis shoes. Yeah, appreciate the call, Bob. You're 100% right. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. From Stephen Shoreline. Ari, great show. I'm a proud Vietnam veteran. Thank you for your service, sir. I'm incredibly pleased that Joe Kent was given this position. Darth says, Joe Kent is awesome. We need more Joe Kents. Yeah, this is basically what everybody is saying, because you can't name anything Patty Murray has accomplished for anybody in Washington. And she's going to insult Joe Kent. I really have to reach out to him tonight. I have to see if we can get him on the show, because it'd be a lot of fun to have him on the show. He's going to be working under Tulsi Gabbard, who we've also had on the show a couple times before. This is great. And if you think you've seen a lot of fun with the Russian collusion mess, imagine what Joe Kent, the guy who we're pretty sure was in the CIA, and we know he did counterintelligence, which is code for spy. I'm really curious what he's going to find out in the bowels of government. I'm actually pretty excited about this. I don't think he should have been in Congress. I think this is the perfect job for Joe Kent. I really, really do. Let me know what you think about Joe Kent, Washington's own, being confirmed by the Senate. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, UCLA is settling to make some problems go away after the Justice Department's damning indictment of them. We'll have all that information for you when we come back. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast, right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to see Adam Sandler at Climate Pledge Arena. Yet another reason, always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Rita in Graham. Rita, what's going on?
Hi, Ari. I just want to bring this out to the public. Where I work, my boss, we're doing votings now, and so they got the ballots, and my boss's husband got 2 ballots. I mean, I thought we were so accurate in that state that we have no problems.
Well, no, we have problems. I'm going to tell you why. The problem with the voter rolls is they pull them from different databases. They don't just want they don't want to trust people to register to vote. They want to make sure they have as many names on that thing, so they send it to you so they get the people they want. So, for example, you're on with the DMV, you're on with the Washington Department of Revenue, you're on all these different internal databases, and they keep sending those over to the Secretary of State to make sure all these people are registered. So it's not a nefarious thing. They really want you to vote more and more and more, and it also shows how they've never cleaned up the voter rolls themselves.
Then why don't we audit them for once? I'm so tired of it. That's the reason why we can never win as Republicans.
Oh, I'm agreeing with you. I'm telling you, there's tons of problems with these. And when we've spoken to Steve Hobbs about some of these problems, the response is always, well, I can't because of the law. Where he's not entirely wrong. Bill Clinton federally did a lot of stuff that means you can't take people off the voter rolls. It's very, very hard to do, but this was all part of the plan. So here's the thing. When you guys get multiple ballots in the mail, realize you're all honest. But realize a lot of other people are not honest. And they say, oh, they cancel each other out, and if you send in both of them don't count. You know what I noticed this time around? Actually, I noticed it last election cycle. What happened to those barcodes at the top? The QR codes used to scan to check on the status of your ballot? I don't see those anymore.
Right.
Now, instead, you have to, go hunting to figure out if your ballot got returned. What is the motivation for removing that? I thought that's to show us how much we can track our ballot and how much confidence we have in our ballot. Why was that pulled off? What do you think, Rita?
Because they don't want us to know they want to have, like you say, as many as they can have to vote double or triple.
Yeah, that's the problem with ballot harvesting. That's the issue. Now, here's the thing, Rita. Unless the GOP starts ballot harvesting and doing that, we're never going to get in power and we're never going to get to change anything. What do you say to that?
I agree. I totally agree, but I'm so frustrated in this state. It's not even real. I am a legal citizen here from Germany, and it bothers the living out of me. Yeah, I know it does. In fact, the people who get bothered by this stuff the most, the illegal immigration and all the voting shenanigans, are the people who came here from other countries and realize how sacred that right to vote is. God bless you, Rita. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. By the way, now is a great time to mention, voter turnout is in the absolute toilet this election. It's a primary in the summer, and a lot of people are away, and people are not paying attention, and they always think voting day is in November. If you guys want your vote to count more, get it in this time. The left is counting on you not showing up. They are counting on it, because if you don't show up, their vote counts more. Their vote matters more. And they always put things on the primary ballot that they want to win that they know aren't popular in a general election. For example, the democracy vouchers. The democracy vouchers are taxing you to give money to political candidates. And just like the ballots, they are able to harvest those. So why is the renewal of the democracy vouchers on the primary ballot and not on the general election ballot? Because they know they would lose at a general election. But they are counting on you not showing up for the primary, which is why they put things like that on the primary ballot. Remember to vote no. Remember to vote against the democracy vouchers. They're a huge waste of money, and your taxpayer money, especially in a place as unaffordable as Seattle, should not be going to political campaigns. By the way, I noticed this today. The Seattle Times finally released their endorsement in this race, and they also said, I can't believe me and the Seattle Times are saying the same thing. They also said that the democracy vouchers are a colossal waste, and you should not vote for them because they haven't worked at all.
We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Carol in Buckley. Carol, what's going on?
Well, I just turned on accidentally, and I was just amazed to hear you talking about Joe Kent because I just love him, and I've given him quite a bit of money, and I'm so happy he's in the Congress. He's going to be a big help to President Trump, and everything bad they say about him is just pure hatred.
Well, he's not. Let me just correct one thing, Carol. He's not going to be in Congress. He's going to be the director of counterintelligence with Tulsi Gabbard, which I actually think is better, right? Because then you can do so much more, don't you think?
I do, and I didn't realize what his position was, but I was so happy when he got into Washington, D.C., because he's going to help a lot of people. And, and the other thing is, when we voted last time, I was fortunate enough to get a postcard that told us they're going to mix up the sentences so people will be voting the wrong word, yes or no. And so I knew to vote yes, 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 yes. I think that was how it went.
Yes,
but
vote yes, pay less for the initiatives. That's what you got a postcard from.
Being cheated by the government, and I don't know why we didn't vote for, the guy who's been sheriff for years and years, and instead we get this other lazy Democrat guy that spends money like he can't.
You have to be more specific. I think you've discussed half the Democrats by that sentence. You've described them by saying that. But yeah, I'll tell you what, Carol, over at KVI.com, we have our voter recommendations. You can check them out. I don't have everything for Buckley, but what I do recommend you do is you go to KVI.com, check out my voter recommendation. But the other thing you do is you go to your county Republican website. They should have the voter recommendations up there for the nitty-gritty races that I may have missed. And Carol, remember, if you listen to the show 3 hours a day, every single day, because you just turned us on today, you'll get a lot of this information, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Carol. Appreciate you listening. Glad to have you on board. You want to be part of the show? You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This from Chris. Says, Ari, wasn't Patty Murray once dubbed the dumbest person in Congress? Chris, I don't know about that one. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but she does have some stiff competition. So, Chris, if you can find a source for that, please send it on over. That would be pretty entertaining. This one here from Gino. Joe Kent, no one more qualified than Joe. Great pick by President Trump and our Senate. On the other side of the coin, not sure who took the most recent photos of Patty Murray. Okay, we're gonna stop right there because you're not being nice, but funny. I see all this, Gino. I do. He says, U.S. Marines, 2 tours in Vietnam. Ari, great show. Keep up the good work, buddy. Lots of our military listen to you often. That means the world to me, Gino. That really does mean the world to me. Appreciate that, and thank you for your service, and thank you for being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. From Michael and Bothell, Ari, Patty Murray is not qualified to judge Joe Kent. All she can do personally is attack him and use the sleaziest smear of all, the Democrats' favorite, the white supremacist lie. Yeah, Michael, you're 100% right. Yeah, this Jew loves Joe Kent. And you're going to call me a white supremacist, or I'm supporting a white supremacist? Oh, that's just absolutely delicious. Absolutely delicious. This one here from John. Ari, why isn't the Democrat Party called the anti-American Party? It's a good time to start with that. You know, I'll tell you this, John, is that a lot of our friends who listen to the show are Democrats and love this country. They disagree with us on some politics, and they're not the Democrat socialist types. They're just not. They're the old school JFK Democrats. The question you have to figure out is how to get them to vote for people with an R next to their name, because so many people don't, just because that R is there, and they vote blue no matter who. Got time for, I think, one more call. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Spencer in Tacoma. Spencer, what's up, man?
How you doing, Ari? Hey, sir. Thanks for your broadcasting. Listening to your topic today, and I just want to let all the voters, hopefully all the right voters are out there to listen to this. So if you have the occasion where, say, 50,000 Republicans vote on a topic and 49,998 Democrats vote on a topic, how many votes does the Republican Party win by?
Well, you're going to say, well, the Democrats are going to keep counting until they win? Is that...
No.
Okay, yeah.
So it's easy to think your vote doesn't count, but 40,000 Democrat votes cancel out 40,000 Republican votes.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's close, yeah. So if it's 2 votes away, I hope everybody gets out there and vote on the right side, and cancels. You're only winning by 500-600 votes because all the other votes cancel out. You think
Right.
there's thousands and thousands and
We
thousands.
had that race. We had that race the last election cycle around where somebody lost by 60 votes. Lost by 60 votes, and it was because of low voter turnout. It wasn't because of the counting. We proved it multiple times. I think only 30% showed up in that race. They lost by 60 votes. 60, 80, it was something like that. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Spencer, good call, good perspective, good advice. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, looks like this is a hot topic. So more of your calls, more of your texts, and we will tell you about that UCLA settlement and what it means for University of Washington. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, if you want to see the Sandman, Adam Sandler himself, with all the hibbity-dibbity and all that other stuff, we're giving away those tickets coming up at 5:45 during our Good News giveaway. Yet another reason for you to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Also, a pitch for everybody to sign up for our podcast on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. You know, Mike, I know how you love the hibbity-dibbity. Well, something popped up on my social media today, which was the video that Adam Sandler and Bob Barker did as a sequel to their fight.
Oh, I saw that.
Right,
yeah,
where
very
Bob
sweet.
Barker's laying in the hospital bed. And my favorite part is actually when Bob Barker says, you know, it's amazing that throughout my entire career, I never had to say hibbity-dibbity or yabba-dabba-doo to get anybody. I go, I got to show this to Mike. And I completely forgot when I came into the office today because Bob Barker was channeling his inner Mike.
He did that for me. Thanks, Bob. Now, you might not have the answer to this, Ari, but like I've been seeing more targeted ads for this Adam Sandler thing, and it seems like he's got like a guitar. He's the guitar hero. Is he like playing music? Is he doing comedy?
Okay.
What's going on? What is the
I
dibbity
will
to
tell
hibbity?
you.
Is it more of a dabbity doobity? What is it? A hoobie Halloween? What's going on?
All right, I'll tell you this. Like I mentioned in our review for Happy Gilmore 2, which you can get over at KVI.com if you missed it, is that when Adam Sandler goes places, he brings his whole crew with him. There were 79 cameos in Happy Gilmore 2. He brings his crew. So when I saw them last in Seattle, he had David Spade, and he had Rob Schneider, and that guy whose name I always forget, who was the bus driver in Grown Ups 2. I forget that guy's name, but he was here also. Plus, Adam Sandler doesn't just do comedy. He sings songs. So some of the songs, you know, Lunch Lady, that kind of stuff. He sings a song about Chris Farley. He does a lot of great stuff. I assume it's new material this time. He's not going to come out with the same old material. That's what Adam Sandler does. So it's a lot of fun. It was a great show. Absolutely loved it. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Neri in Seattle. Neri, what's going on?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes. I have an answer, hopefully.
Well, I hope. So we are choosing judges. However, when a judge retires in a midterm, he get appointed.
Yes.
Why is that? Why are we not doing a special election?
Well, they're appointed until the next election when you fill it. So it's a lot of other situations. For example, we've got that with the Seattle City Council. The Seattle City Council just had Deborah Juarez. They filled her to an empty seat because somebody stepped down. It's the same kind of thing. The problem I have is on my ballot this time, I don't have any judges. I live in Seattle, and there's no judges on my ballot right now. I know there's judges in some other races, but right now there's none on mine. You know what the problem is? Everybody can tell you who's running for Congress or what the hot races are, and they can never tell you who the judges are. So, Neri, if there's judges on your ballot and you don't know who to vote for or something like that, make sure you send it on over to us. We'll give you some recommendations, okay?
Okay.
All right. Appreciate the call.
I mean, like, judges should be impartial, isn't it?
Yeah, you would think, but unfortunately around here they never, ever are. So, actually, I know of a good judge running out for federal way, Mitch Green. If Mitch Green is on your ballot, I happen to know Mitch Green. I happen to vouch for Mitch Green. If he is on your ballot, make sure you're voting for Mitch Green. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Bill in West Seattle. Bill, what's up?
Well, Ari, I haven't talked to your show in a couple of days. I've been out of town, so I missed the show where you talked about the Blue Angels. But I was a seafarer volunteer for 42 years, and 25 of those 42 years, I had the honor and privilege of assisting the Blue Angels down on the lake right there for the Comcart weather station and the maintenance officer so he can maintain communications with the team. My problem with the people who are, obviously from what I understood, it was like 350 people went together to purchase a billboard, and the media has gone crazy with this.
Oh, yeah. So the two stories, let's just go over the two stories. One, there's the cat lady who says the Blue Angels killed her cat even though she euthanized her cat. And then the other one is the people who bought the billboard, and the media is doing that because the media has nothing else to cover. you think they're going to say, hey, 50,000 people showed up to Seafarer? You think they're going to say that? Or you think they're just going to focus on the stupid billboard?
Well, we did a media, not a media study, but a marketing survey when I was down there back in, I think it was 95 or 96. We did a marketing survey, and we interviewed people on exit polling. More than 90,000 people each day were attending the show. Of that, more than 50,000 were new people seeing the show for the first time from the lake. And 90% of the viewing audience leaves the lakeside within 30 minutes of the Blues flying away.
Yeah, I remember
you tell me
a couple of years ago. I remember this a couple of years ago. So let's go back to Sequester Fair, right? That was under Obama. Remember when the Blue Angels didn't fly? That place was a ghost town, an absolute ghost town. And then was it last year? I think. Yeah. So I used to do the bounce houses at Seafair. That was me for a bunch of years there before I got into politics. That was my company down there. And I remember the Blue Angels would fly at, what was it, 1:30 or something of that nature. And then as soon as they were done, everybody was out of there. Nobody would stay for the hydroplane races. So if I'm not mistaken, I think it was last year they changed the schedule where they moved the Blue Angels to the finale of the show to keep people around. That's how popular the Blue Angels are. I haven't looked at the schedule this year, Bill. Are they flying in the middle of the day or are they flying at the end of the program this year?
Well, the reason they made the change, it was for the convenience of the Blue Angels, because any show site anywhere in the country, they are the 3 o'clock show. That's the time slot that they normally fly.
Yeah.
So that's traditionally why they moved it, because there is still a finale race on Sunday after the Blues fly.
Mm-hmm.
There's the final 8. But irregardless of that, these people that complain about the noise, there was one lady who complained because she lived on Capitol Hill and she can't deal with the noise. But she doesn't seem to have a problem with the light flight flying over her house all hours of the day and night going into Harborview. She doesn't have problems with the noise of the SeaTac approach right over the top of Capitol Hill. So I'm just wondering if her problem with the noise is actual aircraft, or is she just jumping on the I hate the Blue Angels bandwagon?
I think she's just hating the sounds of freedom would be my guess, Bill. Bill, I appreciate you being part of Seafair all those years, because people like me and my family and my kids, we all love it. Appreciate that. I think we got time for one more call before we go to our good news segment. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Jason and Lacey. Jason, make it quick, buddy.
Hey, I was just wondering, nobody in my house has gotten any ballot, and we live in Thurston. I'm just wondering, are we not doing an election in Thurston?
No, well, even if that's a little weird, there are some things up in Thurston. Check with your county election site and go, what's on the ballot? And then if you haven't gotten your ballots, I would recommend you go down to the county election site, because by the time you get your ballots, it may be too late because election day is on Tuesday. So I would actually look up the place closest to you, see what's on the ballot, and I would go in person and do it there, okay?
And I got a last second nugget for you. I learned this the other day. Did you know the coroner is an elected official and it only takes a 2-year degree?
Wait. Hey, sorry, what it is? Is dog catcher also?
That's what I said.
Oh, that's crazy. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate some humor at the end of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win a $50 gift card and tickets to see Adam Sandler. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVM. Before we get to our good news giveaway, before we get to our good news headlines, just want to get back to that caller, Jason, we had in the last segment about the Thurston County elections. Yes, there is an election in Thurston County. I am looking at the ballot right now. I pulled it off of the Thurston County elections site. I just typed in Thurston County elections. Took me right to it. So what I recommend you do, because it's really, really close to the election, I recommend you go down to the nearest elections office, tell them you didn't get a ballot, or wait a second, is it like King County where you could just print your ballots off at home? Maybe. Perhaps it is, and then take it down there. Either way, you got to go down there. So I'd recommend going down there to make sure your ballot gets in and is actually counted. And it looks like you guys have a lot of fun stuff on the... I'm looking at a ton of stuff here. There's taxes. Look at all these taxes you guys have. I thought Seattle was bad. Holy cow, you guys got a whole bunch of tax stuff on there. Jason, go down to the county elections office, fill out a ballot to make sure that your vote counts. I recommend you do that ASAP. This was a very entertaining story we didn't get to last week. Chuck E. Cheese apparently got arrested. So the guy who's inside the mascot costume of Chuck E. Cheese down in Tallahassee, apparently he was being taken away in handcuffs, but they didn't take off his head and they didn't take away his gloves. So they put the handcuffs around the gloves. They eventually took away the head because he didn't fit in the squad car that way. But can you imagine walking up to Chuck E. Cheese and going, "Hey, is that Joe Smith in there?" I don't know what you're talking about, copper. The video of Chuck E. Cheese getting arrested at Chuck E. Cheese's and being led away went viral. Absolutely crazy. The man was apparently wanted on credit card fraud. According to TMZ, the man behind the mask is Tramel Jones, who has been charged with theft of a credit card, criminal use of personal identification information, and fraudulent use of a credit card more than twice within 6 months. Hey, if you were doing all that, why are you still working at Chuck E. Cheese? You should be living the good life. He was booked into Leon County Jail and was released on bond. Of course, the pictures on social media go, of course, Florida man. That's what everybody says over on social media, which is just so true. When you see Chuck E. Cheese himself getting arrested in that giant mouse head as he's walking away. Yeah, it's a good time for a rebrand for Chuck E. Cheese. Glad they're doing that more Dave and Buster's kind of look over at the place. That might work out well for them, especially when your mascot ends up in jail. Holy cow. Well, before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980, features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Les Chi, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life. For 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots so that future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit madronafinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last, but certainly not least, my friends, we're giving away two tickets to Adam Sandler at the Climate Pledge Arena on October 29th. You can get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. I'm looking forward to the show. You should be also. It is the perfect amount of stupid and funny and awesome, and I had a great time last time. It was just so refreshing. Not political at all, just gross out humor. I loved it. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and 2 tickets to see Adam Sandler and crew at the Climate Pledge Arena on October 29th. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. That's going to do it for us today. Fear not, my friends. We'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.